here on my property. Wanted to talk to everybody, tell everybody what's been going on with us. I've been really busy lately, been working on some stuff, building some things. We're actually doing a little bit more work on the Ivan Runer book. We've been working on the second book a little bit, but we're going to get it all worked out. Everything's hopefully going to be getting worked out soon, so we can get it all put together and we can have this Ivan Runer thing finished. It's a lot of work, but I think it's going to be worth it. A lot of people are already, I've been getting a lot of messages from people. A lot of people are interested in what we're doing. A lot of people are looking at ritual in a new way. They're trying to understand more about what we're putting together, and they see that like this is a full-on reconstructive method that we've developed, and that we've, I think succeeded in understanding more about what ritual is and how it works, right? So, one of the things, the thing I want to talk about today is a concept that sort of, stood out to me, and I've talked about a little bit before, is the idea of wealth, right? The concept of wealth that exists in our lore, and something that I believe should be inspiring to people, right? Now, in our modern world today, a lot of times wealth is a controversial subject. It's a controversial subject because a lot of people see it as sort of this war between the rich and the poor, and the haves and the have-nots and all that stuff. And there's this battle that goes on with all these people, and everybody hates somebody or doesn't like this, and and the idea of trying to achieve wealth is always conflated with greed, right? That if you have wealth, that must mean that you're greedy. You're a greedy person if you have wealth, And a lot of people, push that idea and create that. And not everybody, obviously, but there's a lot of people who do that. I remember when we were putting the Runic Edda out, I was working really, really hard on that book. That was a very difficult thing to do. It was a lot of work. And I went to printers, and I had to get the stuff leather bound, and I had to get stuff. And after I put it together, we put a price on it. We marked it up to exactly where we could, to the minimum amount. And that ended up being about $400 for the book. And the printers told me, like, you're a fool for doing it that cheap. Like this book is probably worth like $1,000 each, easy, based on what you've done and what it is and all that stuff. And I said, no, I'm not going to sell it for that much, because no one's going to be able to have access to that. It's not going to be something people are going to be able to afford, and it's going to be something that will keep people from getting it in their hands, and that's what I want. I want people to be able to pass it down to their families, to have a tome, something that they could pass on as part of our faith, so that this can never go away again. Like, this stuff will never vanish again, And that was the point of it. It was like creating like a time capsule, why it was so important for me to do this. And even then, when I had everybody, all of these people that were helping me create it, all the work we did into it, the thousands of hours that were put into it, and the expensive materials that we put into it, I still had people coming to me, complaining to me, getting mad at us for charging $400 for the book, And it's like, it was crazy. It was like, dude, like, we did everything that we could to make this as affordable as possible, right? But it just shows you the mentality that's pushed in our modern era towards things that are worth such things, that have something that has value to it, and has a notion of sanctity to it, that has an importance to it, that somebody puts thousands of hours into something, and it has value, it has worth, and it should have worth to people who are a part of this religion. It should have worth to people who appreciate it, right? But like I said, in the modern world, we're pushed with this idea, this narrative that this is bad, that trying to achieve success is not a good thing, that you should be working class, or you should have an idea in your mind that where you're at is where you're at, or something like that. I mean, it's or that people see wealth today, and they always associate it with the degeneracy that you see in the world around you, right? But the fact of the matter is that our religion, wealth is sacred. Wealth is intertwined in all polytheistic religions with luck. having good luck and prosperity and wealth and success are all intertwined. It's all part of fate. It's all part of destiny. It's all connected, right? And so, like, even in Havamal, Odin tells us, like in verse 59, he tells us, basically that you have to get up early in the morning if you want to achieve wealth. Wealth half depends on energy, on being able to get up and work and do what you got to do and try to achieve that success and achieve that goal and work hard for it, right? Most of the stories, I mean, I'm sure there's a few out there, but about 99% of the stories in our lore are written about wealthy people. They're all the jarls, the great heroes, the royal lines, the kings, the queens. All of this stuff was attributing to wealth and success, right? The first rune of every Futhark starts with Fe, which is wealth, success. It's about prosperity. You see, one of Frey's names is Fegyafa, which means the wealth bringer, right? And when you look in the laws and stuff like that, there's so much involving with the transition of wealth and estates and oathels and giving inheritances and stuff like that. And there's a lot about that, right? And so the idea is that we need to do, and we need the part of our religion that we need to have is we need to help people. We need to help people to succeed, because that success coming within a community and helping one another to gain financial success, to gain a greater understanding of what it means to build wealth and invest properly and work for your family and help one another and come up with communal ways of doing this is a much better way to handle these things than simply creating an organization and asking for donations, right? Because then you're centralizing it. And the idea is that if you uplift everybody, then that wealth can proliferate throughout the entire community. And you see stuff like that with like Mormons and other religious sects, that create wealth, and then they share it and they work together in order to help each other succeed through proper investment techniques, supporting businesses, creating ideas for one another, making sure that everybody has a piece of it. But the idea is not and should never be that you get to come around and mooch off everybody, which is what happens a lot of times. You get people that are freeloaders that want to enter into a community and are just takers. They're just like, oh, I want mine, and you guys should help me because I'm part of the folk and all that stuff. And it's not to say that you're not generous to people, that you're not wanting to help people, because you absolutely are, right? But everybody should enter into a community with the idea that you're part of a tribe, that you're part of a community. This is something that everybody contributes to. And if you're not contributing, if you're not making your part of this, if you're not building something yourself and trying to actually engage with it, you're just sitting there doing nothing but expecting everybody else to give to you, then you're not anybody. You're just freeloading, And that's a lot of times what we see. We see that with a lot of bloats and stuff like that when people come to gatherings and there's like two people handling everything and everybody just sits there and waits to be fed. And so, and I'm not here to complain. I'm not complaining about people. I'm saying these are pitfalls that we need to watch after. These are things that we need to look out for, and that we need to help people as much as we can help them. If you need help doing these things, if you need it, then let's work together as a community to see what we can do to get you successful, to get you building wealth and building success and prosperity. I think of like the Shinto. When you're looking at Shinto in Japan, a lot of fathers and stuff like that, they won't marry their daughters off to a guy who doesn't have wealth and success. They'll just refuse to, And the reason why is because they consider guys like that to be bad luck. It's like you have no prosperity. The gods have not blessed you. They have not, given you that prosperity. So you're cursed. You're a bad influence. You're not going to bring good luck to my family. You're going to bring bad luck to my family. And so that's what we have to see it as. We have to look at it in that sense that we want to build good luck. We want to build good fortune, good prosperity. We want to bloat for these things. Winter Nights is coming up. That's a Frey's festival. And We're in the Ivan Runer. We go over that. Everybody should definitely check that out because Winter Nights is coming up. This is the beginning of the new year for our faith, right? And you're going to have the phrase bloat, also called the Hustblut, and then the Alpha bloat and Disa bloat, right? And this is all going to be for our Okfrid, which are good harvests, which brings prosperity and peace. So it's basically prosperity and peace. Getting food in your belly, wealth, success, and having peace, right? And that's what the season is about. That's what it's growing. And it's funny because like you see a lot of people, they try to make Winter Nights about death, because of the Halloween thing. But the Halloween thing is like, that's something that came about. That's a Christian thing, That's has nothing to do with our religion. This is a harvest festival for us, and it's about our Okfrid, good harvests and peace, right? And the prosperity is a very large part of that. And we want to pray for that. We want to bloat for that. And then we want to work for that, right? Because the gods help those who help themselves. You have to do half the work. And, you have to meet the gods halfway. Put in the work, put in the effort, put in the intelligence, the creativity, everything that you've got to do to make something work. And then pray to the gods to help those things come to fruition, to succeed, to build that prosperity and good luck and fortune, And this is what you do. This is how you engage within the faith, and that's also how you actually build a prosperous system for yourself. Because when we see like a lot of the offerings and we see a lot of the sources talk about bloats and stuff like that, one of the things we recognize is that a lot of times there's a lot of giving to charity, right? Which is good urlog or karma, what do people say? That's you give in order to receive. You help people out, and then you get good things in return in your life, And that's what you want to do, and you want to build up that standard for your community. You want to build that standard up for your faith because that helps you, And once you delve into the sources more and you really start to understand what the material is saying and you're piecing it all together, right? You start to realize that our ancestors were no different than we are today. They had there was obviously cultural differences and religious differences, but, they had taxes and they had governments and they had philosophies and they had ideas and they had, problems and they had good things and bad things. And there was a lot of, similarities into our lives. And so a lot of times we think that ours is like this rebellious religion where we're completely different from everything that we do today. And it's not true. Their religion was just taken from them. It was outlawed. It was banished. But much of the culture remained and continued to proliferate throughout, English culture and German culture and Scandinavian culture. And that became many of the things that we know of today, systems of law and systems of society and social norms and religious holidays and festivals and things like that are all a part of who we are, right? So this idea that we have to turn against that and say, no, ours is this religion of like whatever I want it to be, Ours is this religion where we hate wealth, or we believe that we should just be like this working class religion, or we should just, try to just, celebrate poverty, And the thing is that we have to work together in order to accumulate wealth for our community, because once we do that, then we can do all the things that we're trying to accomplish. We can build all the things we're trying to build. We can see Hoffs all over the horizon. We can see communities grow and people build networks, and then those networks rely upon one another financially and familially, and all of the different things that we're trying to achieve there's a greater bind to it when you have finances and things like that connected to one another. And so I think that's definitely something that we have to always be considering, because it makes us successful. It makes your religion successful. I'll tell you, like I mentioned the Mormons earlier, and people can talk smack about the Mormon religion and everything that they do, and they got all the weird stuff that people talk about. But the fact of the matter is that the Mormons, own a state. they had a guy run for president, and and they proliferated so much, and they have huge families, and they have large networks of people, and they have, they're saying that, like, there's a thing now where, because they're so into genealogy, and they connect their families through that and all that stuff, that they believe that the Mormons have like their own DNA now, like their own race of people, which is odd, but that's what it is, and it's because they have built these huge family lines, and they've built huge networks of finances and family and faith, and they've built massive temples and all these different things, and they've been an incredibly successful faith because of it. And so hiding from wealth, or running away from it, or denigrating it in any way doesn't help anybody. It doesn't benefit in any way. And so you have to look at how do we achieve this? How do we grow things? And I think the first step is that, heathens need to be building businesses like crazy and making good investments. And when somebody makes a good investment, show other people, hey, I made this investment. It really worked for me. Let me show you how I did it. Let's work together on it. We can build this and make this happen, right? And then that's how you accumulate real wealth. Rather than just saying, hey, you've got a job, you're working a 9 to 5, give me 10% of what you've earned, And like, that doesn't help, I mean, it can if you get enough people, but you can get little things here. But if you actually work together as a community, as a system, and teach each other and help each other, hey, I'm going to take this risk. I'm going to jump out here and I'm going to do this. And then when I get this going, I'm going to show you how to do it, because you're part of my faith, and I want my faith to succeed. I want us to have prosperity, and I want us to have, figafa, the giving of faith, the giving of prosperity and wealth. Then we'll work together and we'll help one another to create this, right? And that's what we're trying to do down here. There's several businesses being built. People are working together, creating good things. In the next couple of years, we're hoping to see some very big stuff happen in our area, right? And so that's how you're going to do it. And any other way is just not going to work, because you're going to just be siphoning off people. Like, I would never want to take money from people who are working a 9 to 5. I'd want to help those people. I'd want to help those people to build something up so they can go beyond that. And then they can accumulate prosperity and wealth for themselves. That's how you help a community. I don't know if I think I've talked about this before in other videos, but like, ethnic groups, when they would come to America, right, they would latch themselves on to yeah, the other groups are, when the ethnic groups would come into America, they would latch on to an industry, and that industry would become a way for them to, sort of plant their roots in the U.S. One of those groups, the Vietnamese, they came into America, and it was an actress, Greta Garbo, helped them to learn how to run and take over nail salons. And that's why whenever you go to nail salons, there's always Vietnamese people running them, because that became their industry. Same thing, people have sort of a stereotype about Indian people running 7-Elevens, but that's because they latched themselves onto that industry, and they use that to, send money to their family, to grow their community, to build temples, to do everything that they wanted to do, and that became the way that they could establish themselves and grow wealth and prosperity for their community, and that's what you have to do. And so people need to start attaching themselves and finding people who are willing to do this stuff. And then sort of, people who don't want to do it, they need to just, sit on the sidelines. Like, it's okay, you can perform bloat or whatever, but like, people who are willing to do things need to come together, and they want to do stuff, they want to build things, they want to create something amazing, right? Then you come together and you learn, right? And you educate one another, and you work together in order to establish that, because the money is going to have to come before everything, because that allows you to do all this stuff. It allows you to buy land. It allows you to buy hofs. It allows you to buy all of the different accoutrements of faith. All the different things that you want to do as a religion and as a community are going to come through the development of wealth, right? And so this is something that we should have discussions on. We should be talking, we should be coming together and seeing how we can lift each other up, how we can work together and make these things happen. Because it's incredibly important. It's the most important thing, you know. And so if we start, building industries and we start connecting ourselves together and, I mean, in the businesses that we're running, we're hiring heathens and we have people working with us and we're developing ideas on how we can get other heathens running these things and that we're working on and stuff like that. Then, this is how you do it. You give people jobs, you give people opportunities, you give them things where you know that they can earn them. And I have some great employees that are heathen that are just doing fantastic, and so that's what we need to be doing. That's how we're going to step forward into the future. It really is like we have to be able to have some sort of pathway towards success, because if we don't have a pathway towards success, then we have a pathway towards failure. And we've seen like all of these different incarnations and movements and ideas and organizations and stuff like that. And those things, they develop, and then they seem to have a lot of good ideas. They sit around talking about a lot of stuff, and then, they just fall apart. And it's because they never laid any roots. They never established any foundations for anything. They never built anything that actually had value and worth to it. They just sat around talking about stuff. And you can sit around talking about stuff till you're blue in the face, but at some point you have to act. You have to do what needs to be done in order to make your religion succeed, right? And that's, I mean, all you have to do is just take a page from any other successful faith around you. Just look at what they did. See how they accomplished what they accomplished, And it's important because when you see how they succeeded, and you see how they grew as a community. And some of these things, some of these communities, like people can sit there and say, oh, it was easy for them because they had this, that, and the other. But it's like I've seen and met people who literally came out of third world, hovels and grew into something prosperous because they worked very hard and made it happen, right? I believe people might remember a couple years ago, I got invited to, coincidentally, a Vietnamese folk festival, and they had a huge shrine, and it was an amazing event that I got to go to, and I was invited there personally by a young lady. Her name was Von. And Fun was really cool. She knew everything about this religion, and she would just sit there. We would just talk about faith and being folkish and community and tribe and where she came from. She's like from some teeny tiny village in Vietnam, and it was nothing. But they came to America and they started an import store. They worked really hard. They made that import store like a phenomenon. Got some of the most beautiful, precious items you could imagine, and they actually built wealth and prosperity. And then from that wealth and prosperity, they were actually able to build this huge shrine that had like stuff that was gilded and beautiful statues and all these things. And they would just come, it was in the back of their store, and they would hold these little festivals in the back of their store. And they didn't have a lot of people show up to them. They didn't care. They were like, we're here to worship our gods. We don't care about having a big, huge gathering or anything like that, And it was amazing. It was incredible. And it's like, that's what we need to see. That's what we need to do. It's like, we need to figure out like how we can make that happen. How do we make that happen as part of something that grows a community, helps people in their lives? Because at the end of the day, religion has to be helpful. It has to benefit people. If it doesn't benefit people, if it's just a way for people to sit around and complain on the internet or attack each other or fight or get into political arguments or whatever, right? Then it's not beneficial. It's not worth anything. Now, I absolutely believe that our religion has incredible worth, a great amount of worth. But it's just, you have to accept the religion for what it is. And people have to stop making the religion what they want it to be. You read the sources, you understand the material, you put it all together, you see the puzzle come together, and that puzzle is the faith, right? And then when things that you did previously don't work for that, you have to discard it and come up with something better based on the new information that you have. because we have to realize that, as long as we're reconstructing this, we are still in a state of flux. Nothing is written in stone. Nothing is established because we don't have all the information yet. We're working on it. I think that's a helicopter. It's really loud. Sorry about that. So we have to continue to build and continue to grow and continue to develop wealth for what we're doing. I'm gonna go see what this is. Hold on. Oh, it's just a helicopter flying really low. But yeah, that was what I wanted to talk about today, and I wanted to, cite some sources on that and go over it. I mean, you can look at Ynglinga Saga when it talks about the taxation. You see like the Hoftoller, and you see the Havamal. You see there's just so much. I mean, all of it is. When you see when they talk about the gods and they look at these beautiful golden castles they live in and all this stuff, and when you look at the nobles and the Rigsstula and all these different things, all of this stuff is a celebration of wealth and prosperity, and that's what it is, and that's where we need to get. We need to get back to the point where we have kings and queens and nobles, people who have real wealth and prosperity, so that we can have a voice within the world, so that we can continue to grow as a community, and we can continue to develop this faith out and fully reconstruct it, and then have the most lavish or the most humble celebrations we want. But we would have the choice, the option to do so, because we have worked together and built prosperity for our community. All right. So that's all I needed to say. I appreciate everybody watching. Like I said, check out our Ivan Runer book. The Ivan Runer book is it's been a huge labor of love. We're really happy with it. I'm really grateful for all the people that have helped us put it together, all the ideas that have come out, all the people that have helped us come up with suggestions and concepts and ideas. And we're going to keep going with this stuff. I'm really kind of getting my mind focused on possibly the next fundamental that we're going to attack, which is probably going to be law. I've got some cool ideas on that. We're going to take the ancient law codes, and we know that a lot of them are Christian, but we also know that a lot of them, they took earlier heathen law codes and they just kept those, and you can see some of them that are blatantly, like there's the ones where, if you have a Viking ship and you pull into an ocean, into the shoreline, you have to pull off the head so that it doesn't upset the land whites and stuff like that. Obviously, that's a polytheist tradition and not a Christian one, right? So just stuff like that, we're gonna work it out, and I gotta get a hold of a lot of these law codes and stuff like that. But we're always working, we're always coming up with new ideas, always trying to make the next step forward towards the next fundamental and the next thing, So yeah, hail Woden, hail Thunor, hail Saxonot, hail the gods. All right, everybody have a great night, and thank you for watching.